Today's show is sponsored by Indie Film Hustle's Filmmaker process. We provide filmmakers with professional services to get their films or series funded, finished, and distributed. For more information, go to filmmakerprocess.com. In Last Samurai, which, by the way, Last Samurai is one of those movies that if it's on, it's a remote throw away the remote kind of movie for me. Like if it's on wherever it is in the movie, I just stop. Okay, I'm in. It's one of those films for me. I absolutely adore it. I also am fascinated with samurai culture and samurai history, and I have an Akira Kurosawa autograph in the it's on the wall in the back. I've got my samurai sword in the other room. I'm in. So that's why when I saw that trailer for the first time, I was amazed. There's so many things in that movie that we could talk about, but the fight sequences in that film are so wonderful and so amazing. And I know Tom, from what I hear from other directors I've talked to who've worked with him, and also just the legend, he is a serious, committed, professional actor, and he wants to do everything himself.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, no, I would say there is only one shot in that movie that Tom did not do, and that's when the horse that he's riding in the final charge takes a fall.
Right.
Because, first of all, the insurance company would never let us do that, and I would never let him do it, because the guys who did it were the gypsies from Spain, from Zingaro, the great horse circus, who were the greatest riders in the world and who had trained with those horses for 4 months before then.
But he wanted to do it.
Oh, I'm sure. And by the way, he's riding in the charge. I'll tell you what he's in. He's in the charge on foot when the two armies come together and hit each other.
Oh,
he's in that shot doing that. But what I remember is it was February. We didn't start shooting the movie till like September, October. So in February already, I remember he was renting a house someplace on the west side, and there was a tennis court there, and I went to go see him one night, and it was foggy and cold, and it was 9 p.m, and I remember walking down to the tennis court, and he is out there with a sword guy working out, and that's 7 months before we shot the movie.
Wow.
And some of the learning Japanese, and I mean, there was a guy named Nick Powell, a very talented stunt guy who was really good with sword. But I also found that a lot of the Japanese had their own, experts, and they had shot a lot of samurai movies, and there were some guys on that field. There were 700 Japanese who came to live in New Zealand with us when we made that movie. Mm-hmm. They even created a village with our own doctors and diet and whatever. But there were guys on that field who had been in those Kurosawa movies.
Jesus.
So, and there are certain guys in those battles who die about 100 times. I think that they're just
as good stunt people do. You just put another wig on them, get them out there again.
Yeah, but I do remember that literally it was a kind of ghoulish exercise, certainly in that final battle, about saying, okay, what's another way to kill someone?
Oh,
how many ways are there that I could devise to kill someone? I'll tell you another interesting thing you probably like. There's the scene when the samurai first come out of the mist and they charge and they're on horseback and Tom on horseback. We built that's an animatronic horse. Mm-hmm. It was $1 million to build a horse that is probably only in about 28 seconds of film.
How is that? That doesn't make a lot of sense ROI wise. Like, there's not a really good return on investment, or is there? I mean, seriously.
It does, because in the middle of this remarkable scene, you have your movie star doing things that you would never let a movie star do.
Okay.
A horse rearing, turning, sword, bending, twisting, and then getting T-boned by another horse and going over.
I guess you're right. I guess you're right. You're absolutely right.
There's no other way to do it. And you say to yourself, okay, this whole sequence is going to be 5 minutes. And if you've got 30 seconds of that movie star doing that in the middle of it, it's probably worth it. In a movie that cost $130 million, that $1 million was well spent.
Yeah.
Hard to prove, but true.
That's amazing. So that sequence, that fight sequence in the back alley, the when the samurai surround Tom, and the way you shot that, and the way the timing and the slow-mo and the way he was like the images. How do you approach a scene like that?
Yeah, I read a book by John McPhee talking about Arthur Ashe and I think it might have been Osuna playing a tennis match in the 60s. And it's a brilliant analysis of sport, but also of competition. And I remember him trying to break down a tennis stroke into the composite motions of every change of weight and vision and timing and that what the human brain might be capable of doing and understanding all at once. When you see a player in hang time twisting and reversing the ball and then going opposite alley, I mean, since things that, or I once had a cat that I slow motioned dropping the cat from higher up, upside down, and seeing the cat come and find his feet with a kind of gyro ability that he would have. So the idea was to say, how would it be possible for someone, because, in samurai movies, when you see it, they're doing it, but it's very fast and you're taking it on faith that that's how it would have been. But I said to myself, okay, is there a way that we could literally break it down and see it and do it in the reverse? Usually what you do in action, or at least what I've seen before with action, is some action starts and it immediately goes into slow motion.
Right.
And that's how it happens. And I said to myself, well, what happens if we do it and then find a way to then go backwards and almost like that he's been training.
Right. That's why this makes so much sense.
And when you're training, you train and you train and you train, and they try to say to you, and the whole theory of that was, which is what coaches used to say to me, if you did well, oh man, you were playing out of your mind.
Yeah.
If you're playing out of your mind, what does that mean? It means you're only reacting.
Right.
So to first show him playing out of his mind, almost being unaware of what he had done, and then go back and almost to recapitulate it in that penultimate moment that leads up to the last moment. That was the whole theory. But Tom, I will say, does those guys are swinging. They're not sharpened swords, but if one of those swords would have hit him in the face or in the arm, that would have been, if not the end of a career, it would be the end of a couple of weeks of shooting. So imagine the amount of time that he spent rehearsing that with those guys to do that.
Wow, man.
To do it all in one. It's done all. I wanted to show it all in one take first.
Yeah, and the reason why all of that works so beautifully is because it works into his character, and that's what I love about that action sequence. It is a statement about what the character has gone through. Yeah. It is not just an action sequence to look cool, which is fine, and there's those stories in those films. But in this, your action sequence are actually is a storytelling aspect. It's not just look how cool I can swing a sword. It's look how far I've come.
I believe. I'm not interested in action for its own sake. I mean, I like it sometimes, but it's just not who I am. If there's a reason, if something is accomplished narratively in it, then there's a reason for it to be in the movie. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's by design. It's great if you can reveal anything through behavior rather than through exposition. And in this case, it literally, begins with that first scene with the character playing Ujio, Hiroyuki Sanada, when Cruz refuses to lie down, and you see him picking up, and he's training with that stick.
Oh, so good.
But it's a progression, and even that scene, by the way, which we did in the rain, which made it much more dangerous for him. Sanada happens to be a master, but to have slipped, if one of them slips at that moment in that wet mud, that's just right out. So
it is again, and if anyone listening has not watched Last Samurai, I mean, please do yourself a favor and watch it, because the action sequences, the story, I mean, I cry at the, I mean, you're just tearing at the end of that. It's just so emotional and so well done. To watch the rest of this interview, head over to indiefilmhustle.com.